Hello, hello, welcome, please come in. It's time to continue our monk-only runs in the final game in this series, Final Fantasy XII. And as per usual, we start directly in the Garamsythe waterway after getting Phon and Balthier and completing the Gambit tutorial, because it saves time, and it's very easy to get here without selecting a license grid at all. But now everyone has monk assigned and we can dive right in. Much like prior games, monks prioritize durability, having the most HP lures of any class in the game, and have minimal magic, though we'll come back to that later. But of course, the progression through the Garamsythe waterway itself is mostly uneventful. But I will be doing a brief and slightly repetitive stop-off at this treasure chest to pick up a set of oaken poles. Unlike prior games in the series, monks actually use weapons here, and for the whole game. The pole is a reach weapon, meaning it can hit flying enemies, and calculates damage based off the target's magic defense rather than physical defense, which is odd, but that may have some impacts. I should clarify that monks can actually get the Brawler license, or just equip the Amber Armlet to deal passable damage unarmed, but bluntly, unarmed damage is pretty bad in this game because its attack is based off the average of the character's level and strength, making it not especially good outside of very endgame stuff, I think. Anyway, Fire Main. Fire Main is fairly durable, and while poles deal decent damage, it's not great damage. Phon is also my only reliable healer, thanks to Cure, but that's not actually very good. Fortunately, this is the first boss in the game, so it's pretty easy to just push through regardless. Very brief pit fight, and it's into Nalbina Fortress to get back my stolen gear and do some violence to get out of here. That means joining up with guest Bosch, turning on the power down here because it's Barheim passage time. But first, some shopping for new weapons and new armor. Nice, better damage, better defense. And yeah, that's pretty decent damage. Not the best damage I've seen here, but certainly solid and fairly consistent. I am going to be fully relying on Cure from Phon for healing for a bit though, which is never ideal. Oh yeah, I can actually kill Flans pretty easily. Pulls are weird in this game. Okay, nothing else interesting here. Boss time against the Mimic Queen. And first priority is to take out the Mimic spawn so they can't drain all the energy in the arena. Then turn my attention to the Queen herself, and wow, yeah, that's a lot of damage actually. Well done, monk. Starting off strong. Mimic Queen down, and it's time for the long run back to Rabanastre. Add Bosch to the party, and join back up with Phon and Balthier to fly to Bujerba. As is the case with basically all of the physical jobs, my main party will be Bosch, Balthier, and Phon. Entirely because they have the highest strength stat. I did briefly consider including Penelo or Ash for magic. We'll get to it, but it's not really needed. In Bujerba, Lamont joins the party as a guest. No new weapons in the shop, so that's sad. Oh well, into the Lhusu mines. So glad Larsa has some actual healing magic. From doing monoclass runs, any guest that has healing magic is my favorite guest. Anyway, back out of the Lhusu mines. Do some shouting to get an audience with the Marquis, and it's on to the Leviathan. I probably should have bought potions at really any point. It's probably fine, I'm dealing good damage, and my HP is fine, I guess. And then it's time for everyone's favorite boss fight, Room Full of Dudes. And jokes aside, this fight can be a bit tricky on occasion. It's pretty easy to get swarmed, especially if you don't have great damage, but I'm able to take out the randos and then beat up the two actually durable idiots. So that is another boss down. And good news continues because the Moogle sells better weapons and armor. And I have enough money left over to actually buy some healing items. Oh, the other good thing about poles, which I forgot to mention earlier, is that they have both a pretty decent evade boost and a fairly high combo rating, which means they make you more durable and deal more damage than the raw numbers might otherwise suggest. Into the next boss fight. Immediately beat down the many guards he has, and then throw out a Reflectica mode on the party, because Geese is silly and he will in fact blast himself with arrow repeatedly to bring himself down. Nice. And that means it's time for the Sandseas. Whee! Yeah, nothing too interesting here. Just two areas right next to each other that end up feeling very samey. Here, Vossler does rejoin the party, which does nothing for my healing, but does at least mean enemies die faster, and honestly sometimes that can be enough. But other than that, there is nothing here, so next boss time, Garuda. Thanks to the magic of poles, I can hit him even though he is flying, and also thanks to the power of poles, I can absolutely wreck this boss. I may not have that much healing, but turns out I don't really need that much. That fight is always so silly. And that means shopping time, because it's new armor for the whole party. Hooray! Things have been going pretty smooth, but that also means I'm a little underleveled and a little undergeared. And the Demon Wall is a DPS check, so I'm just gonna go do some quick bird slaughter to get some experience and loot. And that gets me 3 upgraded poles for even more damage. Oh, I should also buy as many high potions as I can. The healing they give is already starting to fall off, but that's my only healing, so I'm going to need to make that work. Okay, It's time to run straight past the first demon wall and start fighting the second. First problem is status effects. Demon Wall loves to cast Blind, which drastically reduces my damage, then comes Telega to remove a party member. Thankfully Phon isn't the worst character to lose, that would probably be Bosch. And I actually win the fight with decent time to spare. Well done, monks. You're crushing it, actually. Okay, into the tomb itself, where there isn't really anything useful, but it's worth exploring for random chests and even more experience. And that means it's time for the next boss fight. And, debatably first actual boss in the game, Belias, who is no joke. I mean, usually, in this fight I managed to hit him down to half HP pretty quickly. Phon throws a few high potions, and that's kind of it. Even Phyraja is more theoretically threatening than actually threatening, since my entire party is now oiled. And that is Belias down, and that was pretty easy, actually. We may have another contender for best solo class. But with Belias dead, it's back into the Leviathan and time for another boss fight against another enemy that can be pretty tricky, Vossler. Start by easily taking out his random guards with an Erogamote, then focus on Vossler himself. Like most human enemies in this game, Vossler starts out not super dangerous, but his combo rate increases as his HP gets low. But then he just kinda doesn't do anything. Like, he does get some combo hits, but not nearly enough to actually be threatening. Huh, very weird, that fight is usually a bit tricky. No idea why Vossler decided to just not. So that fight beaten weirdly easily, and it's into the Giza Plains wet, on the way to my next destination. But as a brief stop-off, I'm going to need to knock down all these trees to open the pathway to the hidden area. There aren't any treasures here I care about for monks specifically, at least not any that I can reach past these very dangerous enemies, but there are some strong weapons that sell for a lot of money. So a little easy money acquired, and it's over to the Osmone Plains and into Jahara. Here I can pick up the Pheasant's Nutsuke to give a decent boost to healing items. Considering that's the only healing I have, that is very nice. Larsa also rejoins the party and brings his Cura magic with him, which is great. Love healing magic. And it's over to Gulmar Jungle to do some proper money grinding, because these panthers are very easy to chain together to get more drops. So hold please while I just absolutely devastate the panther population. Loot acquired, and it's over to a Root Village to get my next mission, and no new weapon? Oh well, new armor. Okay, guess I can warp back to Jahara and buy new weapons here. That should do. And spend all the LP I got killing all those panthers. Okay, yeah, this should definitely do. Okay, but that silly nonsense completed, I'm going to do even more side content, apparently? Hunts? Huh, that's kind of a new one. Oh, I finally decided to be smart enough to get the monographs early. These unlock certain drops from certain enemy types. They are expensive, but getting them early enough and they will more than pay for themselves. I guess this makes sense to actually remember to do. Okay, now I'm done with side nonsense and it's over to the Hen Mines. Finally, to actually do some plot stuff. The mines themselves are not super interesting, poles deal pretty good damage, Larsa has Cura, and good lord, look at those HP totals. Yeah, monks are still monks in this game. And that means it is boss time. Against Tiamat, and this fight is very tedious as ever. This boss just has a lot of HP, but doesn't really do anything interesting. I mean, I guess it has Disablega, but that's easy enough to avoid by just keeping the party spread out. Goodbye, Tiamat. Hello, Great Worm. This is the dragon fight that is actually difficult. Usually. Beating up the random treants is pretty easy, but then out comes Swarfall. So many status effects, and I don't really have any way to heal them. Some license grids get Remedy Lores or Rasuna, monks get, nothing. I can minimize the impact of Swarfall by keeping the party away from each other, but it's still pretty bad. This ultimately becomes closer to a DPS race. Can I deal damage fast enough so the stupid dragon doesn't use Sporefall 37 times? Yes, but it's still fairly tricky. And with one of the harder fights in the game done, it's out of the Gulmar Jungle and into the Paramina Rift. And to Mount Baramises for the next story sequence. Although, before Larsa leaves the party and takes Cura with him, I think I should do one quick errand. A quick teleport back to Rabanastre, then an airship ride over to Nalbina. En route, I can buy a bunch of teleport stones so I never have to worry about those again. In Nalbina, I can rent a chocobo specifically to scare away this dude, and it's into the Mosphoran highwaste a little early. The highwaste itself is not my destination, instead it's the northern part of the Ester Sand, which has the Berserker Bracers. Double ATB speed and extra attack damage. Nice. I can also pick up the crystal here and warp back to Mount Baramises to finally bid adieu to Larsa and get my next destination, the Still Shrine of Miriam. And that means accessing the deeper levels of the shrine, fighting or running past enemies. My damage is actually looking a little weaker than I'd like, but that's okay, it should still be good enough. And between some potion lures and the Netsuke, high potions are healing a little over 1000 HP. Not bad, though compared to my health pools, that is pretty low. Especially with how far I have to go yet before I can access X potions, but what can you do? So I'm exploring and I find myself here, the Undead Causeway and one of the better money grinding spots in the game. And money grinding done, and I can head into the next proper boss fight against Venuskar. This boss has a magnetic field to slow down the party, and that is the end of the fight. Poor Venuskar, he's so pathetic. And next up is the fight against Marius. First up is to prioritize the Azer running around so I can actually focus on Marius. Despite being limited to high potions, my healing isn't too bad. Marius does like to deal a lot of damage with Blizzaja, but my comically high HP pools means I have more than enough space to win this fight. Okay, not bad, monks. And next up, it is back to Mount Baramises to buy some new armor and weapons. And the next potentially difficult boss fight, Bergen. Like Vossler, Bergen is human and therefore starts to combo to stupid degrees when he is at low health, but it doesn't actually make a huge difference, mostly because Bosch has like twice as much HP as I would expect at this point in the game. And it's now time for the long walk to Archades, which starts in the Mosphoran highways, since I already have the crystal here from earlier. This area can be a bit annoying because of the flying enemies, but thankfully, that is not an issue, thanks to poles. Through the highwaste, it's into the Salaka Wood to collect the Mughals around here so that they can fix the main gate, and that gets me to the Phon coast. And the camp here has a bunch of new weapons and new armor that I need to actually do some money grinding off camera to afford. And that means I can also buy the last few monographs I needed, mostly because I forgot I hadn't bought them all earlier. And all that grinding got me a lot of LP. I'm prioritizing different areas of the grid with different characters, but long and short of it is that I want more damage and more health, and boy howdy is that a lot of health. Boys, can you get it together, please? Anyway, absurdly high health pool acquired, and it's time to head through the Phon coast and into the Sita uplands. Here, chat with this little brat and get the hunt for the tomato family. This means I can head into the Soaking Cave Palace and sap? I don't have a cure for that. Guess it's time for some Phoenix therapy. And it's into the next boss fight. Will this boss be comically easy? Will it be a nightmare? Let's find out. The fight starts as normal with a few tomatoes dropping, and then I am poisoned, and everyone is asleep for just way too long. I ultimately ended up switching in Fran to just wake someone up, and yeah, this is not going well. My HP is getting dropped pretty quickly, and I've reached the point in the fight where I can't really hit anything. Okay, I've seen this before, and I do not have the patience to repeat the Foe Breaker debacle, so time to reset and set up a few status gearing gambits finally. And it's back into the fight, and the fight does still suck. It basically always sucks, but the better status healing, or maybe just luck, means I can take out the tomatoes before they buff themselves into unstoppable monsters. Hooray! I hate that fight. Am I going to do the stupid waterfall thing to get a Mega Elixir? No, I don't think it's worth the time to do so. So that means it's boss time, Ahriman. This boss has Confuse, which is not ideal, and Doom, which I can't cure at all. The good news is that it's not super durable. And while its duplicates manage to strain my healing a lot, it's not actually enough to make me lose the fight. And with Ahriman dead, I can hop into Lower Archades, start a fight to get access to Archades proper, and that means gathering chops to get access to a completely different area of the city. They really did a lot to condense all the unfun side quests into one area, huh? At least Archades has new shops, which means new weapons and armor. Wind element, huh? Guess I'll need to keep the old ones on hand. But only after some more off-screen grinding to get just a little more gil to afford it. Okay, that's done, so it's time to... Oh shoot, I forgot about items. Because Archades means I can buy X potions. I mean, they won't actually heal that much relative to my max HP, but it is still a considerable upgrade. Okay, now it's time for Draklor, and Draklor has no treasures I care about at all. Normally there are some decent moats to grab, but my party are monks. They cannot effectively use moats in any way. Other than dispel moats, I guess. Or float moats. Anyway, let's beat up Dr. Sid. First up is to take out the drones. I used to take Berserk off Bosch for this, but it's actually just faster to let Bosch waste a few attacks here and there and stay berserked. And then just beat the crap out of Sid in the corner, and the fight is over, because this fight is very easy. This sets the party down in Balfenheim, and it's time to warp back to Arut village and head south through the Galmor jungle into the Feywood. This area is home to the best money grinding spot in the game, which I desperately need, but it is easier to grind if I take out the next boss first. Rafflesia, who has the unfortunate luck of being weak to wind attacks at the same time I happen to have wind poles on hand. Yeah, that was indeed the entire fight. Hilarious. Anyway, time to kill some Mirror Knights for grinding. Wonder why I didn't pause the recording for this. Just a huge chunk of recording that is just grinding. Anyway, grinding done, time to move on. I could go back to teleport to Balfenheim, but it's better if I just move forward. There aren't any bosses between me and the next teleport crystal, so it just makes sense. The behemoths in this area can be a bit scary, but not with how much HP I have on hand. And I have reached Giruvegan, which means I can immediately warp back to Balfenheim, because I now have the money to buy this, Kiraja. In the ongoing mystery, that is, why did they design these wards this way, monks can get Kiraja, the strongest healing spell in the entire game. It is locked behind a quickening license, but that's it. It's not even Esper locked, so literally everyone on my team can learn it, which is particularly funny because the drastically inferior Cura license is locked behind an Esper. An Esper I will not fight for a bit yet. And having access to the strongest healing spell in the game on a class already this durable does indeed mean any challenge in this game is now gone. But I may as well bury it as deeply in the earth as I can manage, and that starts with completing some hunts. I really just want to unlock the Encalados hunt. Completing this gets me my 3rd golden amulet, which means I can now head into trial mode to get a ludicrous sum of LP. So now I'm gonna go do that. Okay, LP acquired, thoroughly spent, and items restocked, it's back to Giruvegan to actually complete that dungeon. And that starts first with the boss fight against Daedalus. This fight is normally very easy, and then very difficult, as Daedalus loves to one-shot party members in the final phase of the fight. However, it is considerably more difficult for him to do that whenever it has over 5,000 HP. So it's into Giruvegan proper. I wonder if I can reasonably kill this holy elemental. Yes, I can. Interesting. Anyway, time to run around, flipping switches. It is a bit of a bummer that I still don't have any way to cure the sap status, but at least I have Kiraja, which is just destroying any semblance of challenge this run had. I mean, yeah, it doesn't heal as much as it would on a dedicated caster, but 2,000 HP on the whole party is a lot. Oh, disease. That's not great. I don't have any serums because you can't buy them until after this dungeon. For some reason, stupid game. Good thing there is a crystal before the next boss fight, Tyrant. And this fight is a nothing fight. Tyrant can deal decent damage, can hit pretty hard, but it does not matter when Phon is healing 2,000 HP to the whole party with every cast. And even when Tyrant actually does start to surpass that, I have Balthier with a lower HP Gambit to also cast Kiraja. Okay, into the Great Crystal. The enemies here are fine, the items I can get are small upgrades, but nothing too exciting. And heading through the path and one last teleport gets me to the last boss of this area, Shemhazai, and I'm really not expecting much here. Shemhazai does no flare, but that's a single target attack, and oh, she has Silence Ga. Better set up a gambit for that, and yeah, other than that she cannot do anything at all. Even flare only dealt a little over 3,000 damage, which for most classes would be a lot, but monks just have too much HP. That means I have the Treaty Blade, Redis has joined the party, as a moderately capable guest, and I have my next destination, the Pharos. And the shops have new armor. That is better than what I found in Giruvegan. Hilarious. Anyway, while I could head to the Pharos now, it's time for another side quest first. Back in the Salika Wood, I can kill the Bomb King, because I can finally deal enough damage to outpace Renew. This clears the way into the Nobrious Deadlands, which is always a fun time. Oh, disease. I really should have picked up serums. At least I have a few. Actually, I'm just gonna kill this crystal bug and make a detour to do that before I forget. Much better. Anyway, back to the Nobrious Deadlands and into the Necro Hall of Nabudis. Between monks being pretty good damage dealers and my decent levels, I don't have to be too careful here, just as long as I'm not getting completely overwhelmed, which can happen very quickly. Anyway, I am here for 2 things. First up is the Bravery spell, because yes, the white magic license that unlocks Kiraja also unlocks Bravery, meaning I no longer need to be careful not to run out of Domain Calvados. And second on the list are the Hermes Sandals, which apply auto haste. So between both of those and buying Bacchus Ciders, I now have my Bravery Haste Berserk damage core. Oh, Liza P updated. That's fun. Anyway, into the Ridderonic Cataract, and thanks to having Bravery, my damage is a bit better than normal, because I can just keep Bravery on Bosch at all times. It's very exciting. The final area is a big endgame boss rush, so let's boss rush. First up is Hydro, and Hydro can be a bit of a pain, inflicting a wide variety of status effects, and really stressing the party's ability to heal both health and those status effects. The good news is that they don't actually have to do this for very long, because Bosch deals a lot of damage. Next up is the big turtle, Pandemonium, and yeah, this fight is not actually difficult. I get it to half HP pretty quickly, and it then becomes immune to damage. Honestly, this fight is usually most notable for wasting healing items, but that's not even a concern, because I'm not really using consumables. So it's just a patience waiting game until the barrier drops and I can kill it. Onwards. Huh, I don't have any way to cure Disable, do I? Interesting. I guess one thing monks notably feel the lack of is remedy lores. Not to say that invalidates all their other considerable strengths, because boy howdy it does not. More tower climbing, and it's into the next boss fight. And Slight can actually be fairly frightening. It starts off with pretty weak attacks, but slowly ramps up to more and more hefty combos. Against a class with a, well, more normal amount of HP and healing, that could be a problem. However, it just isn't here. I mean, look at that health total. I should not be able to have that much health at such a low level. I mean, look at Redis's HP pool. It's much more balanced. In the next area, I must give up something. I elect to give up the map because you have 2 in the Zodiac Age version and you only lose one of them, which is very funny. Wow, this is just, I'm just bashing through everything. Not quite as quickly as Ulan because they had Holy Lances, but pretty quickly regardless. Fenrir, Disappointment Made Manifest, is next. It's scary because of the many buffs it has, but Dispel motes exist, and Fenrir can't recast most of them, meaning I can then just pull him down until he is very, very dead. Okay, I get back my smaller map now, which is very exciting, and it's into the 3rd ascent. And that means it's already next boss time, Ashmal. A float mote disables most of Ashmal's most dangerous attacks, and a Dispel mote takes out his buffs. While Ashmal can deal pretty decent physical damage with basic attacks, it's not too bad. Phon even goes down, with disease, but the fight is over so quick I don't have time to cure it. And that means 2 bosses left to complete this dungeon. I do think it's funny that the game plays a cutscene and then moves your party past the Mega Elixir here. I mean, they definitely knew what they were doing. Anyway, time for the penultimate fight against Gibran. You may be shocked to learn that this fight, which is always easy, was indeed easy. Okay, actual boss fight up next against Dr. Sid. Start by reducing him to half HP very quickly, and out comes Famfrit. I do have to switch around my gambits so the party actually targets the right enemy, but even then this fight is nothing. Even combined, Sid and Famfrit can't outdamage Kiraja, even from a class with no magic power. Famfrit falls, Sid follows soon after. And that means all that's left is the Bahamut itself. Let's get this wrapped up, and it starts with the actually scary fight against Gabranth. Mostly because unlike the first fight, he gets big damage reduction and huge combo potential at low HP. This has proven to be pretty difficult for many prior job classes. Better tweak my healing HP gambits just to be safe. Mostly because Gabranth can deal just so much damage. And yeah, he even manages to drop Bosch, but I can get Bosch back up and rebuff before Gabranth can sweep the entire party. Next up on the list is Regular Vane, who is incredibly frail and unnotable. He spends more time in cutscene attacks than actually fighting me. Okay, time for a real boss fight. And, my MP is looking rough. Despite having the Sage Ring equipped to have MP cost, Kiraga is pretty pricey. I guess I don't have any reason to hang on to any of these ethers. Take out the Flying Swords itself isn't too bad, and Swolvane drops. And now it's time for the Undying. Start with a Dispel mote to take away his buffs, and then it's all about keeping the party healthy, topped off to mitigate Vane's many, many attacks. Once through the final Paling and Terror Flare goes off, I can use a Mega Elixir to fully heal the party. Not really necessary, but Bosch can then get in a few more hits and win the day, crushing Vane more easily than ever before. And that was Final Fantasy XII, beaten with only monks, and that was really easy. Definitely in the top tier of license grids in this game, at least for a solo run. Monks just had so much healing, pretty good damage, and Kiraja coming in right in the last minute to mean endgame healing would not be a problem. But I will have more to say about that in the summary video, out next week. I did want to shout out that I do have a Patreon, linked in the description. I spend a lot of time making these videos, so if you enjoyed the video, want to support the channel, and are financially stable enough to do so, that exists. No pressure though, this channel is free to enjoy for everyone, and will remain that way. For now, if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you'd like to see more of this, feel free to subscribe. Hey, maybe leave a comment if you have something you'd like to say. But whatever you decide to do, have a safe trip home.